I'll start at -2. This EQ is fixed. I've got a tiny little bit on at 40 and a tiny little bit off at 30. And I love that because it gives me a little punch. So I've got this big massive EQ and I'm using it in the most minimal possible way you can. It's a common usage of this EQ and definitely works with Chris because we get some tube EQ with the de-esser and that's working together, kind of giving some swell to the music. And then we get punch with this EQ and a little glue at the end. And this makes the track sing. So here we go, -2 at the top. Don't want this to be too edgy. Don't want to fill up the speaker too hot on it. And then we're going to go to -1. Now there's multiple ways you can do that. You can let the music hit and go up both channels at the same time, or you can kind of ease one and then the other. Now you notice we have rotary volume. You can do it on a slider the same way. Another approach to this, in the case of Chris, is I would like to come up one and then the other, but very close to each other, not very loosely spaced, but you know, one and then the other very quickly, right before it hits. Not too much before, but I really want that impact. There is some philosophy though to the fact that you can have that hit and then ease into it, because you do have some limiting going on. The impact will still be there and you won't notice a dB step in that case. It'll be smooth, because it'll be 1 dB less limiting and it'll have a nice hit, but then you'll ease into the feel of the limiting for the section. So in this case, because of the nature of the song, because of the nature of the audience, because I know Chris's work, I just want that to hit hard and heavy, and I'm going to come up right before that. So let me just do a quick listen. I'm going to check it out and see exactly where I'm going to make that move. So it's right on that effect. Let's see. I don't want to come up at the beginning of that effect because it'll change the intent of that effect. Let's have a look. Everything feels good. So I'm letting that intro hit and then coming up. Band is feeling good. I'm not pushing the EAR too much. I'm set at 3K and 6K. I'm also set at 120 and 60. What it's giving me is kind of a flat across the board. 60, 120, 3, 6, and 10K. And I've got a little boost on each. And it's sort of raising the overall level in a way that if you came and just quickly looked over my shoulder, you'd say, oh, what are you putting on all this 3K? What are you putting on all this 120? I'm actually using it as an overall amp. I'm getting a little level, a little flavor from it. Later on in the song, when I want to boost a little 3 and 6, I'll take that a little further. And again, if you came and looked at that, you'd go, oh, there's so much EQ going on here. But in fact, it's just an addition to what this kind of flat curve already offers us. This is something that we very meticulously built into that plugin so that these presets, when you see that EQ in the front plate of that plug, is boosted kind of at all frequencies, and that's what that is. It's a little color flavor and an amp boost. So that's what I've got going on here. As I'm learning the song, I'm going to take a look at this breakdown too, just to see if there's any maneuvers to make, because I'm already at my -1, which is my maximum on this particular song that I'm going to go. On the input, I'm getting a dB more saturation on this tube EQ than I am on the rest of the chain. So my -1 is my maximum. I came up from -2 from the intro. So let's take a quick peek at this breakdown and see if there's anything to do in that regard. That one's clean. Let me take a look at the other two places in the song where this is something to look at. I think we're going to have to come down on this section. Okay, I'm pretty sure what I'm going to do, once I get my mid-range boosted the way I like it, and the way I know everybody else liked it, I'm going to drop and follow their dynamic range on the level, but I'm also going to adjust the EQ a little bit, just a tiny bit. I'm going to pull that back as well. So now we're getting into manual maneuvers. I just have to rehearse that once or twice and make sure I get that right. So. Now this one I can bring my levels back up once the music's hit. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to time it so that the channels start coming up as that music's hit. So the second channel, if I'm not bringing it up at the exact same time, will come up once the music's hit a little bit. So it's not quite as hard hitting when it comes back into this section. It's not one of those massive hard hits, so we can ease into it. And I want to make sure to cut the EQ a little bit there so that the voice doesn't have this edgy sort of harsh thing that is cool when you listen to it once or twice, but not more than that. It's got to be this warm, inviting thing that you want to listen to over and over and over. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I haven't yet determined where I'm going to put the mid-range. So I know I have to make a maneuver, and now that I know what I have to do, once I set the EQ, then I'm going to know how far I have to do everything, think it out, and then lay the tune down. So let's check this breakdown. I like the hits in there, and I like them to stay up. So I'm actually not going to drop anything there, but I am going to ease up on that EQ. That same maneuver I want to do in the small section, I want to do on that breakdown, but I'm going to leave the level where it is. Nothing necessary there, and that way those hits won't feel diminished in any way. And then the song ends up in this place that we left it. So I've learned my level moves. It's going to be the intro and this tiny little breakdown section, and I've got an idea of my EQ moves. So what I'd like to do now that I know what I'm going to do as I ride the song down and I do the manual performance of it, which is what we do on all this music, it's all broken down by section in a manual and thought out and philosophical way. We get into it, we get into the feel of it, we follow the dynamic range of it, the way we use this gear, so that if there is any color flavor, you aren't aware that we're there. We always have to present this music to whoever we're giving it to in a way that makes it sound like we were never there. So there's going to be feel and flavor and color to it, but there's going to be a direct connection between that listener and that music. So this is the goal. So what I'd like to do is just play the song from just beyond the intro and get a feel for, I know the song enough now that I'm going to leave the GML EQ the way it is, which is a very common practice. We use it for a little low-end punch. In this case, it's beautiful to have it because, you want to retain that punch, and sometimes if you introduce a piece of gear with color in it, you could soften that punch. So if we do something to retain that punch, we can have that color and the punch, and it doesn't feel like anything got lost. So in some ways, we're mimicking the original intent, plus adding that stuff that blooms, if that makes any sense. This is why we use a lot of pieces of gear in the chain and a little bit of each piece of gear. So I've got my high frequency limiter pretty well set. It's barely touching. It's going to allow me to open it up without making it sound edgy. I like where I have the C1 also just barely tickling. I already know that my gain structure and my A to D level is going to be set in a way that's going to please Chris and the artist and everybody else involved. So really it comes down to, at this point, how I'm going to EQ that mid-range and ride that through the song. So let's take a listen from here and see what it is we're going to do, and then we'll lay it down and we'll have it. Nothing here that really needs popping more than it already is. The mix is well placed, everything's in its place, the guitars, it's all blended and glued. Now we got the introduction of the artist. And we have to make sure he's working with the support of the band. So we don't want to pull him out too much, and then the bass isn't holding him up. It's all got to be what the mixer intended. Just bloom it out a little bit. Let it live with everything else that's out there. Very little bit, not a lot. Beyond my original flat push. all through this section. It's a good thing. Working well with the way the track is supported. Great rhythm section, great bass. That drum kit is doing that retro thing. All the elements are present and detectable, and the overall global feel is there. And here's the move I mentioned.
Hey, ho bisogno almeno di un motivo che mi tiri sul morale prima che la rabbia mi strozzi mentre
just as planned.
collare pare che il brutto male nasca spontaneo da un conflitto irrisolto.
Thanks for joining us and allowing us to show you how we approach our sonics, our relationships we have with clients, and everything that encompasses making the final deliverable that everybody will enjoy.